Everybody, well, mostly everybody, knows at least a thing or two about the Alaska class. Although their service careers were rather lackluster, these ships managed to squirm their way into living rent-free in everybody's head for all of eternity. Nobody can really seem to decide what the hell these things actually were. Were they battle cruisers? Were they large cruisers? Nobody can ever seem to decide, and quite frankly, I'm not going to bring that up anymore, because I don't want to have to argue with 50 people in the comment section about it. They're battle cruisers, simple as that. If you disagree, then fight me IRL. However, that's not the topic of this video. I'm here to discuss another random paragraph that I read on a Wikipedia page. Unluckily for you guys, there's not enough information on this for me to make a full 40-minute video like I did for Operation Raygo, but I still think it's worth talking about. As the story goes, in mid-July of 1945, an operation was undertaken by the US Navy to raid Japanese shipping in the East China Sea. This aspect of the story is completely normal, but somehow, from somewhere, the US had gotten some intelligence estimates that said that 2 Japanese battleships, several aircraft carriers, whatever that means, and destroyers, and nearly 100 aircraft and suicide boats were in the area. Now, I can see why the latter two were expected. Shinyo suicide boats were stationed pretty much everywhere at this point, and Japanese aircraft continued to defy logic by simply existing in places where they probably should have left a long time ago. But not in a million years could I tell you where the estimates about Japanese battleships and carriers came from. The rest of the Japanese Navy's capital ships were all trying to turn themselves into islands at Kure Harbor, and were most certainly not in the East China Sea. However, the US decided that either way, they'd better send some big guns along to deal with any trouble that might brew up during the raid, and conveniently enough, they had literally the perfect ships for the task. The Alaska class shared the trait of the German Deutschland class of being incredibly good commerce raiders. They were fast, heavily armed, and incredibly good at detached operations away from a main battle or carrier group. Plus, since both of the ships, Alaska and Guam, would be present for the operation, if a Japanese battleship somehow decided to show up, they could probably deal with it, especially if it was Haruna or one of the battle carriers. The operation began on July 21st, 1945, and both Alaska, Guam, the light cruisers Cleveland, Columbia, Denver, and Montpelier, and their escorts began making their way into the East China Sea. Almost immediately after arriving, the task group was confronted by the unexpected. Absolutely jack shit nothing. The 2 mighty US battle cruisers and their escorts of cruisers and destroyers had sallied forth very nearly directly into Japanese home waters, and had come across basically nothing. The biggest service threat that the ships encountered were a few Chinese fishing boats with nothing aboard them except for some hungry fishermen trying to provide for their family. The ships were attacked by a few stray Japanese aircraft, but apart from these air attacks, that was it.